everyone, my name is Annie Cooper here with Aaron Singerman, founder and CEO of REDCon1, one of the top supplement brands. So Aaron, how are you doing?
Doing very good. Thank you for coming to the office today and seeing me.
Of course, thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
So one of the first things that I want to ask you is what made you start Redcon in the first place?
Well, it's a little bit of a long story, but the short version was I had another business with a business partner, and we basically stopped getting along. Mm-hmm. And we had started the business as two best friends in 2012. The business was a big success. We were the 27th fastest growing company in the Inc. 500, privately owned company, Inc. 500, and things were going really well. But myself and this guy basically grew apart. You know, I had a family, I have 3 little boys, and he was kind of doing the same thing. And I guess our kind of opinions on everything kind of diverged, where I wanted to do things one way, he wanted to do it another way, and as a result, we ended up splitting up. And when we split up, when we actually ended our business together, I decided I wanted to do it again, but this time to do it the way that I wanted to do it, and kind of to do it a whole different method. And over the time of that business, I learned a lot of things that we did right, and I also learned there's a lot of things that we did wrong that I would have done differently. So it was kind of like, I always compare it to like, if you think back to high school, like for me anyway, when I think back to high school, if I knew the things I knew now when I went to high school, I would be Mr. Popular. I would have had all the girls. I would have been, I would have been, the man. But you don't get to do that in life. But in business, I basically did. I get to go back and start over, and I really scaled the things that we were successful at, and we were honest with ourselves when I started this business, and we removed all the mistakes. And so we got going very quick, and it's been a great ride.
What's one thing that you really wanted to make different from your previous company?
Mm-hmm. Well, marketing is my passion. So initially, growing up, my passion was bodybuilding, and I realized quickly, being a skinny Jewish kid by nature, genetics played a big role in bodybuilding, and there's only so much you can do. You can push really far, you can get far, but you can only go so far. And so I realized pretty early on I wasn't going to be Mr. Olympia. I wasn't going to be making money in bodybuilding. So it kind of switched over from bodybuilding to the fitness industry. And I found success in the fitness industry and made a living. And I quickly learned there that you really can't support a family and make any kind of money in the fitness industry covering the world of bodybuilding and fitness. So I discovered, bodybuilding supplements. And so that was the next thing. And for me, that has, while that's still a big passion, a lot of my focus has shifted into the world of digital marketing in general, and creating demand and also creating great products. And so for me, I really wanted to market the products very differently. Mm-hmm. So at the old company, we had a kind of sex sells kind of attitude, where while that does work sometimes, it didn't really resonate with me. And so when I started REDCon1, I knew I didn't want to go that direction. We decided to go more blue collar work ethics, more like kind of the golden rule, you treat people how you want to be treated. And we really kind of focused specifically on military, and the highest state of readiness is really what REDCon1 means. And so that really applied to everybody from a soccer mom to a Navy SEAL. And so that's really where we put most of our focus. And so when we pick an athlete, we're looking for somebody who not just has a good following and a good physique, but somebody who fits the morals and ethics of the company. So.
I love your marketing, by the way.
Thank you.
Do you think incorporating those like funny comedy commercial type videos has helped a lot with sales?
Sure. Yeah. So I kind of thought, like, back when we first started REDCon1, like, who do we want to be? And I quickly found that for us, eliciting emotion through comedy has really, really worked. We don't take ourselves too seriously. And I think that it really resonates with the consumer, because ultimately people want to be part of something that they think is cool. In a way that you can make people feel close to you or close to your brand is by making them laugh. I mean, you could go a whole other direction and make them cry or elicit emotion in a more dramatic fashion, but we've kind of chosen comedy. So when we pick an athlete, or when we have Blessing, who lives here in Boca now, Blessing Awodibu, and I didn't even know he was a professional bodybuilder when I met him. I just knew he was the funny guy. And I was like, oh man, this guy would be great. And he had a big following and everything, but because he didn't take himself seriously and he had good creative ideas, that's really what interested me in him. So yeah, I think definitely a big part of our success in marketing is engaging people through comedy, for sure.
So that's another thing, going off the marketing thing. How do you decide what to put your money towards? Is it team building first? Is it athletes, product development, marketing? What is your top thing that you would say you put most of your money towards?
Well, most of the money, so it's different for us. So we're at a level at REDCON1 which is much different than a startup. So my advice for somebody who's at where we're at versus a startup is different. For us, we put majority of our money into marketing through digital marketing, through really Facebook and Instagram advertising. But we spend a lot of money on the team, on equipment, on making sure we have the best people in the spots. But most importantly, the number one thing is you want to have a good product. Because if you have great marketing and a bad product, even if you're engaging people, you may be able to get them to buy once. There's a company out there, I won't name, that was really successful for a while, that had a lot of people very interested, and people would buy the products and then they would churn. They'd have a tremendous churn. People would buy the products once and they'd be gone. Because they were doing a good job marketing. They had all these influencers and it was a popular brand, but when people try the products, they're like, products didn't really work, or they tasted bad or whatever. And so for us, the number one thing is to have a great product that people will like, because ultimately, if you get a customer and lose a customer, it's going to be tough to build up any kind of groundswell. So we make sure that the product is great, the branding and the marketing is great, so that when people come back, they buy over and over and over again. So for example, 58% of our customers buy 6 or more times.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, it's a pretty crazy number. And 81% of our customers return back a second time. And we have this crazy following where, we have literally thousands of people who have purchased over 100 times.
That's amazing.
So that's strictly because the products are good. So they feel close to the brand, they like what we're doing, and they love the products, so they keep coming back.
So for example, what's your most popular product?
Total War is our most popular product, which is our pre-workout. But we have a really growing, we call it the Emory Family. So it's the Emory bar. Initially it was just a drink, which was beef, chicken, salmon, and eggs with, it's like a whole food meal replacement. It has the gluten-free rolled oats, dehydrated like sweet potatoes, yams, like blueberry cobbler has the dehydrated blueberries, and it has MCT oils for healthy fat. So that was the initial Emory product. And then it became Emory Light, where we removed all the carbohydrates. So it's almost zero carbohydrates, but with the same whole food protein sources. And we were able to make it taste just as good, maybe even better, some of them. And that kind of led us to trying the Emory bar, making a bar out of that same formula. And that has been a huge success. So when you kind of combine all those together, that's kind of our biggest product family. But number one product is Total War. Pre-workouts are always big,
Exactly. So if there's a competitor that tries to go against you, make the same type of thing, the same type of formula, how do you differentiate yourself from that?
Sure.
Is it kind of pushing the marketing more, or do you change the product?
Well, so for one thing, for sports supplements, we are a transparent label. So we don't hide anything in a proprietary blend. You literally can pick up the back of Total War, find out exactly what's in it, and you can make your own. You can make Annie Labs, Annie War, literally Annie War. You can literally copy us. You can even take it to a lab and get the exact flavor, where you can speak to a flavor scientist and say, I want this flavor exactly. And they can replicate the product 100%. So it is a weird place to be, because there's very few other things out there where somebody can literally take, it's like Coca-Cola. The recipe secret, right? Because they don't want people having the exact same thing as Coca-Cola. So the difference really truly is the branding and the marketing, and making sure that your product is 100% dosed correctly, is that it's tested. So for us, we make sure that we third-party test all of our products. We make sure that everything is exactly the way it should be. It obviously has to taste great, but then a lot of it, when it comes down to, is where the product's sold. So how available is it? And then if you create something stronger. So for us, we don't have any one product that carries the brand. So like Total War is our most popular product. But many brands out there have a product where like, this is the brand. And if they were to lose that product, the brand's gone.
They'd have nothing.
Yeah, they'd have nothing. So all of our products sell. We don't have a product that's a dud. Every one of the products sells. Some sell better than others, but if we lose one, it's only a small sliver. So for example, like Total War is our biggest seller, but it's only 7% of the revenue for the business. So if it goes away, it would be terrible, but it wouldn't be a disaster. Whereas other companies in the past, like if you remember Jack 3D.
Yes.
So Jack 3D was a great product. When that was gone, there's really no more brand. People don't even know, if you say what company is Jack 3D, most people wouldn't even be able to tell you. They just think it's Jack 3D, So fortunately for us, we built a strong brand, not just a strong product,
And are your products made locally or overseas?
Everything is made here in the United States. We have manufacturing in Pittsburgh, in Georgia, We also do milk specialties, which makes protein. It's a big protein. They actually do the whole process, so from the cows to the actual making of the whey protein, and that is up there in Michigan and Chicago. So we have distributors, manufacturers all over the country, but we're pretty selective. We don't have a tremendous amount. A lot of companies will have many partners that manufacture at the same time, but the problem with that is that there's inconsistencies sometimes with the product. Where if you're making it and he's making it and I'm making it, we're all making the same thing. And if you're getting ingredients at a different place, or you're blending it differently, or the flavors come from someplace different, there can be slight differences. And we try to keep everything uniform.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So another thing that I wanted to ask you is a lot of entrepreneurs might say, stick with the one thing you know from the beginning, stay patient with it. And other people might say, test a bunch of different things out and see what works. So what is your advice for that? Do you kind of try a bunch of different things out, or do you really trust your gut and just go with it?
So, I initially, when I first got into business in general, I would jump at every opportunity. And I definitely did a lot of things. I've been business partners with a lot of people in the fitness industry. I've owned businesses with other companies. I've owned a business with Kai Green, Dynamic Muscle, and Robin Daniel and Bailey. I own a company. I own several other ones. And initially I had a bunch more. And I was looking for other opportunities everywhere. And I was fortunate enough that a lot of people would come to me with opportunities. And I would just, if I thought there was money and it was going to be fun, I would just say, yeah. And I have come to find out that that everybody has a finite amount of energy. And so let's say you have this much, right? If you're splitting it up in 10 things, those 10 things are never going to be as good as if you take all of it and put it into one. On the flip side of that, if you put all of it into one in the first phase, you may never get the opportunity for the big, successful one, because no matter how good you are, you're not going to knock it out of the park 100% of the time. I mean, what do they say? Baseball player, if you hit it 3 out of 10, you're in the Hall of Fame, right? So in business, it's very similar. Nobody, no matter how good they are or what they know or their resources, is going to be successful in everything they do all the time. So, I think it's good to, when you're young, you're just getting in, make sure you try to see what is your passion, what do you want to do. But then once when you have some modicum of success, you definitely need to go all in on what you're doing. And it's funny because now I'm at a phase where I'm starting to look at possibilities again, because as an entrepreneur, if you're a natural born entrepreneur, it's tough to not have ideas. Mm-hmm. So I get a lot of ideas and I'll think, oh, that's a good business idea. Or somebody will tell me something that sounds like a good business idea and I want to do it. And I try to hold myself back, but I'm at a point now where I'm thinking of doing some other things in addition to this, because it is in your nature. If you're a real entrepreneur, you're going to have business ideas, you're going to try them, they're not going to work, they are going to work. And it's got to be like a balance of when do you have time, because the people that have done anything really big, they're just doing that, right? And then, some point in your life, you have an opportunity to do other things in addition to that one thing. So that's kind of like, it's a balance.
Yeah, and are you afraid, like if you do decide to kind of start another business, start something new, are you afraid to take your time away from this?
Yeah.
Are you afraid to do something else?
100%, because the thing that I said before is true no matter when it is happening or not, you still have this much finite amount of mental energy. So what you need to do, or what I will do, is that I'm sticking to what I'm best at, and then just diverting a tiny bit of energy, but creating a team to support that. That's why I said you have to be at the right place. So when I started REDCON1 or when I started my past companies, I was all in all the time, totally focused on it, thinking about it when I was brushing my teeth, when going to sleep, everything. I'm always thinking about it, right? You have to find somebody who's willing to do that for you for the other business ideas, because you definitely can't do that in two places. So you will 100% lose focus in the thing that's successful. You have to build a team. And that's really where the other businesses in the past that I've been a part of that haven't done as well, they've all been somewhat successful. But none of them have been anything like Redcon, because I put all my focus and attention in it. So if I were to go back in time and say, like, how would I have done one of these other supplement companies differently? I would have taken my resources, or been honest with myself to say, do I have enough resources to hire a marketing director, to hire art people, to hire a video team? Because if you don't have the money to build a team for that company, probably you're not ready to do another company.
Yeah, and you have a huge team, which is freaking awesome.
Yeah,
I walked in here, I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah.
So how do you choose, because you do have heads of different departments,
Sure.
How do you choose who's at the top? Is it who's making the most sales? Is it who's been with you the longest? How do you choose who's at the top of that department?
Yeah, so we started, when I started, we just had a few people in the business. So we started, it was myself, Eric Hart, who's the vice president. We call him Silky Tuba here. He is the
Wait, what is it?
Silky Tuba. That's his nickname. So he is second in command, and then Eduardo came with me for my other business, and he's the chief of staff. So he's like third in command. And then everybody else, I decided to bite the bullet and hire before we had any products. So there's a team of about 5 or 6 other people. So we had 8 employees when REDCon1 started. And the only way that I was able to do that is because I had saved money and had the resources to do that, because there was nothing to even sell when I hired them. And then over time, we've hired more and more people, and I fired a lot of people, or people have quit. So in the sales guy's office, they've deleted it now, but they used to keep track of how many people had either been fired or left.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So they still have pictures, because when I made them delete it to erase it. But so we have 83 people here at REDCon now. Yeah, pretty cool. And we have had 63 people leave. So
oh my gosh.
yeah, so we've had people cycle through. And some of those times when those people left, either they deserved to get fired, or they left on their own right, or whatever, right? A majority of those people ended up leaving for their own personal reason, or wanted to do something else at the time. And some of them I was sad about, where I like, oh, I wish you wouldn't leave, or how do I keep them, or whatever. But I've always come to find that there's always somebody better around the curve, right around the corner. And we've over time built up this leadership team and the department heads, and I do it based on meritocracy, on who's the best. So who's putting in the most effort, who's achieving the most, who is most invested. So I do it strictly not on seniority, not on how long they've been here, or anything else, strictly on who is the best, and the kind of the cream rises to the top. And that doesn't always. Sometimes people don't like that, but if they really don't like it and they can't follow along, they probably shouldn't be here. So my biggest weakness as a boss is I'm too soft.
Really?
Yeah, I'm too soft. It's very hard for me to fire people, and because I keep wanting. If I like somebody, I give them more and more chances. But I've come to find out that you have to be honest with the person and what you expect. And so the way that it's made me more comfortable dealing with, because it's uncomfortable for me, is I tell the person that, like, hey, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. This is what I'm expecting you to do. You need to do this thing. If we have to discuss it again, then I'm going to have to let you go and find somebody else who can do it. And so that way I give them an opportunity. That's not a pleasant conversation, but it's a lot less unpleasant than when they walk in and they're shocked they're being fired. So because I have to do what's right for the business and right for the team, which is not obviously right for what they think for themselves. So I'll sit them down, warn them, give them a warning, like, this is going to happen next time. And then when it happens, I don't feel so bad. So look, I told you, so it is what it is. But it's been a process. Getting a good team together is very difficult, because everybody, especially when you have 83 personalities, everybody's motivations is different. Everybody's, priorities, everybody's work ethic. You have a lot of different personalities. And so for one thing, I have a lot of young people that work here that are, in the ages of 20 to 25. So as a result of that, I let everybody come in here later. So the work day for a lot of these guys starts at 10, because that's what they wanted. And so I'm cool with them coming in at 10. When I was in my 20s, I would have loved to have been able to come in at 10. And so they come in at 10 and they leave later, and that's what they prefer. And then some of them, like my controller and my father-in-law and some of the older people, like to come in at 7:38 and they want to leave at 4:30, and that's okay too. Yeah, and that's okay too. So it's definitely a juggling thing. And what's happened for me is, as I've grown, the business has grown, I deal with less people. So now I just specifically deal with the department heads. So like Monique is the marketing director, and then JP is the art director, and so on and so forth. So I deal mostly with those guys, and then they deal with the people under them. So instead of having a guy who is packing in the warehouse come and tell me, hey, I need to take a day off, or my mom's sick, that person would tell Marcos, who's in charge of the warehouse, the packing team here. So that has helped a lot. But on the flip side, it makes us much more disconnected. So that's why we do a lot of the team building stuff, and we get together and like try to have fun, so that people don't feel like they're not allowed to talk to the person that's not in their department. But it's just like the easiest way to handle stuff.
I feel like that's important to make a company a family.
Yeah, 100%.
To really make sure that everyone is included with everything.
Yeah.
And so do you feel like at this point you fully put your trust into these heads of the departments, where you have less stress on yourself?
Yeah. Yes. One of the things that I've found for myself, and a lot of business owners find, is that you usually feel like you could do it better. So like and that doesn't go for every department because obviously I can't do that. I'm not an artist. I can't do the art better. And we have 2 guys that are coders. I don't know how to do that. But there's a lot of stuff where I think to myself, and I used to especially think like, oh, I could be doing this better. I could be writing this copy better. I could be doing the ad better. I could be telling the art guys, this is the way I want it to be done. But ultimately, you can't do that. It comes to a point where no matter, you could be right even. And certainly, sometimes I was right, sometimes I'm wrong. But you got to understand that as the business grows, you got to trust. You have to trust that they're going to do their best. And that's why it's important to pick a good team. So for me, it has been a process. But as I get more and more good people, and I realize that they're doing their job better than I could be doing their job, which is really what you want, it's been easier and easier. And when I sit around and we all talk, I usually go 99.9% go into the meeting open-minded, where I may have an idea of what I want to do, but we really work as a community here. And so a lot of times, more times than not, the best idea isn't mine, and that's a good thing. That's a good feeling.
Did you ever think back, because you've been in the fitness industry for a long time, right?
Yeah.
When did you start competing?
Well, I started competing in 1998.
Wow.
Yeah, it was when I did my first show. But I've been working in the fitness industry since 2007. So.
Did you think back then that you definitely wanted to have a company, but you didn't know what it was?
No, no. When I first started in the fitness industry, working in the fitness industry, I just felt really fortunate to be making money doing something that I was passionate about, that I enjoyed, because everybody else is going to work and feeling really like kind of sorry for themselves or not enjoying it, saying thank God it's Friday and all this. When I felt really fortunate being able to get paid, even though I wasn't getting paid a lot at all, but I was able to pay the bills doing something that I liked. So I felt really fortunate. I've never, I didn't think of myself, I didn't have the kind of confidence in myself in 2007 to think like any of this would be possible. So it wasn't like a big goal for me because I didn't think of it as a possibility,
Was your goal back then still competing? Or
No.
You weren't sure at all?
No, I knew I didn't want to compete. I knew I liked competing. I would have loved to have been able to compete and be successful. It just wasn't realistic. I did a few shows later on, men's physique shows. And it was like just because I wanted something to compete in. I didn't think I was going to be good at it or be Mr. Olympia, but I thought it would be fun to have a goal, a finite goal, and shoot for it. Back then I think my goal was to try to continue to move up. At that time I aspired to be like, the people that I really looked up to then would be like Joe Weider, Ben Weider, Steve Blackman from MD, Peter McGough, who was the editor-in-chief of Flex magazine at the time. Like that's what obviously Joe and Ben Weider created a whole movement, and they created fitness, basically bodybuilding as we know it. But like the Peter McGough, he is the editor-in-chief of Flex magazine. I thought, man, wouldn't that be cool? I mean, he probably makes $150,000 a year, $200,000 a year. Like that would be amazing to be in charge of an iconic magazine and have people working for me. I still wouldn't be the owner of the magazine, but that would have been like the pinnacle of my aspirations at the time. So I just didn't think anything else was possible. It would have been like a fairy tale, like a dream, like a silly dream.
Wow.
To imagine this kind of thing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So speaking about the NPC shows, you guys are like a official sponsor, is that correct?
Of all kinds of them, yeah. We do
Okay.
hundreds
Do you
of
think
them.
that's helped a lot with your brand awareness? Just people seeing the name at the shows and wearing the shirts and things like that?
So I think so people ask about that a lot. People have asked me like, how do these shows benefit you? Like, what's the ROI on a show? And the truth is they're really poor if you're looking for ROI. So if you're thinking I'm going to have a booth, I'm going to spend $500 for a booth, I'm going to get my stuff here, and I'm going to make enough money and profit to pay for this and be profitable, it's probably unlikely. So depending on where you are budget-wise, you have to make a determination how important is the awareness for you, and then what are you doing with that awareness? How are you benefiting from it? Not just transactionally, like I'm receiving $100 and I'm giving $500. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me, it's there's 2 reasons why I do it. Well, number one, the first one was to give back because I view the NPC, Jim Mannion, the IFBB Pro League as like kind of like how I got here, right? So without those guys, not like Jim Mannion was intentionally doing it for me, but because of what he did, he provided a lot of opportunities by creating the NPC. So for me, I don't think I'd be sitting here doing this if it wasn't for the efforts that he put in, and then before Ben and Joe Weider. So it's like giving back. So that's one thing, is the giving back. The other thing is that those people at the shows, if you're able to reach the competitors, those are influencers. So influencer is obviously a big thing. Everybody talks about that now. But what those people are to me is micro influencers. They may not have 100,000 followers or 1 million followers, but everybody at their gym looks at them and says, oh, these guys know what they're talking about. If they see Annie working out, they're like, well, she must know. If she's wearing a Redcon shirt, that means something, right? So I kind of view it as a long-term awareness thing. So if I go to the shows and I'm providing Emory bars and the goodie bags and samples of Total War, or putting my logo on their shirts or whatever, right? All that stuff adds up over time. So it's a long-term kind of game. Whereas so magazines back in the day, print media, that's how print media was. Print media, you put an ad in the magazine, you hoped it was cool, hoped it resonated with people, and then 6 months down the road, hopefully it's making a difference, but you don't know for sure. And that's the same way I view NPC shows and IFBB shows. It's a branding and awareness thing. You just have to be ready to spend the money on branding and awareness, and some companies aren't. Or on the flip side, if you are, or you're not really, but you want to, how do you make it work for you? Make sure you're in the goodie bags. Make sure you go to the athletes meeting. Make sure you're there and present, so that you're making the most impact for your money.
So you think a big part of success is influencer marketing and ads and social media versus any face-to-face kind of booster events?
Yeah, I mean, well, they're both, it all adds up together, right? It all adds up together. And for me, one of the biggest initial things that create success is relationships. Mm-hmm. So if you're at shows, so when I first started in bodybuilding and fitness, Dave Palumbo was my boss, and Dave would say that, tell all the bodybuilders, even though he wasn't talking to me, he was talking to people he coached and people that we interviewed. One of his big pieces of advice was go to all the shows. And the reason why he would say go to all the shows is because you meet people. So you're networking, even unintentionally, you're networking and you're meeting people. And so I took that to heart, even though he wasn't giving me that advice back then. So when I would travel with Dave, I would make sure to meet everybody, meet the judges, meet everybody, anybody and everybody. And those relationships have 100% paid off, because you become friends with them, and then it's easier to do business with somebody you're friends with, or people prefer to do business with somebody they're friends with. And just like Eric Hillman, who owns Europa, Eric Hillman and Jeff Compton, they're two owners of Europa. Eric Hillman was and still is an IFBB pro judge. So I saw him at all the shows. I met him many times, way before, 10 years before I started a company, or maybe not 10 years, somewhere around that. Before I started a company, I met him. He knew who I was. So when I started a company, he was anxious to work with me. And now I am, Redcon is one of their biggest companies that Europa distributes. And we feel comfortable with each other. I like him, I can call him, I can text him anytime. And if I hadn't done all that stuff, the face-to-face stuff, I certainly wouldn't be in that position to do that. So it pays off. So it's funny how it's hard to say what works, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. It just really depends on your budget.
What's been your favorite part about Redcon this far?
My favorite part?
Favorite memory, I guess I should say.
Oh, I've had so many good memories. We've had so many good memories. One that jumps out at me that was really cool. I mean, there's a bunch, but the one that I'll tell you two. One that jumps out at me was we were so focused on. I'm a numbers guy, so I'm a numbers guy by nature. I'm a numbers guy, so we were really focused on hitting $1 million on the site. So $1 million in a month of retail sales. And I have it all. I videoed the whole thing on my phone. And so essentially, what happened was we were watching. It's towards the end of the month. This is over a few years ago now. Maybe it was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I think, in July. And so we were. Everybody was in the office, all getting ready, and everybody's watching the numbers on the site for the next purchase. And somebody purchased, and we hit $1 million for the month. And everybody celebrated. We popped bottles and champagne, and it was really neat. And then the other one was walking up to the Arnold booth. Last year, we walked up to the Arnold booth, me and Darielle, and the amount of people that were in line at the booth, it was by far the most people at anybody's line. The booth we always go in the far back right-hand corner, so there's plenty of room for people to stand, which wouldn't be a good place at all if nobody knew who you were, because it's all the way in the right backhand corner. But we walked up, and we had the big video screens and stuff of me and, the family and our athletes, and everybody was standing there, and you walk up and you're like, holy shit. This is crazy. Yeah, it was crazy. Because, a lot of times when you're in it, when you're doing it, it's hard for me to take a step back and reflect. Because I'm so focused on the next number or the next goal or whatever, that it's difficult to stand back and wow, look at all this. But as you're walking towards it, it's a long walk. And we're walking up, and she's like, is this the line for us? And I was like, I don't know. And we walked up, and it was. And so it was really, 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 really neat to have so many people come up and buy the products, wait in line, meet everybody, and seeing so many Redcon shirts and stuff. That was a really a pinnacle moment. Although we've had I've been very fortunate to have a lot of good moments like that,
So after good memories, there are bad memories.
Sure.
And I think it's important to address the bad memories because clearly you've moved forward and you have
Yeah,
to move forward.
yeah.
So what is something kind of bad that you remember that you kind
Redcon.
of move forward and you're happy that you got past that
Well,
really helped you?
I mean, the worst thing I can think of that happened during Redcon is Dallas McCarver passing away. You know, he was a big part of the company and as a friend to everybody here. It wasn't just an athlete because he would come here every day and participate. So it was like an employee, you know. So, 26 years old and everybody loved him. So for him passing away suddenly, that was a very, very dramatic and very bad time. And, it's hard to say what good came out of that other than, to remind everybody that cared about him how fragile life is and to make sure to, take every moment in, and realize that nothing's guaranteed. Because he is a big, full of life guy. I mean, and he certainly didn't seem sick or ill. He was there that day that he passed away. He was here at the office, acted normal, nothing to warn or hint to the fact that later that night he would die. So it was a reminder for sure to realize like, hey, this isn't forever. You got a finite amount of time here, so make sure it counts. But that was definitely a tough time. And probably the toughest I can think of while we're here.
But I do feel like that's good because it does remind you to keep pushing. And
oh yeah.
Tomorrow might not happen, so you have to really
100%
make the best. And that sounds cheesy and corny
it's
or
true,
whatever
though.
it is, but it's
true.
so true. And it really makes you push.
And for Dallas, one of the things that Dallas, like if anybody knew him well, is that he really went 100%. I mean, he went 100% in the gym. He went 100% in his relationships, as a friend, etc. I mean, he was a person that pushed really hard every which way, and it reminded us. We walked away from all of that knowing like what Dallas would want, and Dallas, no question, would want us to kill it. You know what I mean? So that's what we did. In his memory, we have been crushing it. Ever since. So
that's amazing. So what's your biggest piece of advice that you would give to any entrepreneurs that want to start a business or trying to excel in their current business?
Well, a few things. Number one is don't quit. I mean, that's the one I tell my three sons is that quitting is the one way you for sure we're not going to make it, right? So it's a guarantee. You quit, you're definitely not making it. So quitting is easy, and in this time of social media and immediate gratification, it's very easy to say, I'll just try something else or I'll quit when it gets hard. Because ultimately it's going to get hard. Every life of every entrepreneur, there's tons and tons of stress. So like right now, this business is going better than any business I ever thought I'd ever have. And but there's tons and tons of stress. Even with good times, when everything's going great, there's tons of stress. When are you getting your inventory in, cash flow management, receivables? I have so many people owe me millions and millions of dollars. So there's always something to be stressed about every which way. And positive stuff, bad stuff, good times at times. And the one thing for sure in life is that it's always going to be different. So if it's good now, it's going to be bad later. If it's bad now, it's going to be good later. That's how life goes. There's always going to be, no matter who you are, that's what's going to happen. So you have to be able to weather the storm. And most people are not going to be successful quickly. Mm-hmm. So REDCON1 started 3 years ago, and in 3 years we went from zero to some pretty crazy, right? But that didn't happen really in 3 years because that didn't include the other 5 years of my past business. It didn't include the other 5 years before that of traveling the world with Dave Palumbo. All of that led up to this. So it's just easy to quit, and so I would tell people, don't quit. That's it. Don't quit. And then the other big thing, when you think of what you want to do, I think there's a mistake of not differentiating yourself. You have to figure out gimmick is a bad word, but you need to figure out what's your thing. So like when you're creating your business, or if it's a product or a service, you need to think like what's out there, what's going to make you different, how are you going to differentiate yourself, and why would people want to buy it from you? So a lot of times people will tell me with supplements, like I'm going to start a supplement company, and I really don't get into it with people too much because I don't want to be discouraging. Because the first thing I think is like, well, why would I buy your protein? Because like you said, what we're talking about, whey protein. If your whey protein isolate is whey protein isolate, which it should be if it's on the label, should be the same as mine. Maybe mine tastes better, maybe yours tastes better. But why is anybody gonna buy Annie Labs when they can buy Redcon Labs? Because Redcon's known worldwide, sold in 70 countries, blah blah blah, right? So you have to think like, if that's my brand, if that's my business, what is going to be different? And if you know that, like going into it, if you figured out what your thing is, what your gimmick is, and you can push towards something a little bit different, even if it's just slightly different, then you got a shot. But if you're literally competing in a busy marketplace doing the same thing as everybody else, you have to be honest and say, well, why are they going to buy it from me? You know?
Good point.
Yeah.
So what's next for Redcon? What are you guys working on?
World domination. I mean, we're working on continuing to grow. So, you know, we are expanding in different channels. One of the cool things about Redcon is we're an omni-channel brand. So we sell internationally, we sell direct to consumer, we sell to direct to retailer, we sell in corporate, and we sell in FDM now, and grocery stores, C-stores, and so it's a brand that has really spread its wings and is going in every direction, which is unique in our thing. And the big thing is to continue to expand and get in more doors. One of the big things in sports supplements now is food products, consumables, performance food. So, you know, we have the 2 protein bars, we have the RTD. I'm looking into different ideas for energy drinks that wouldn't be like exactly what we're just talking about. So I don't want to go up against Bang. I don't want to go up against Monster. So how can I be in that same space, but be in some white space where they're not, right? Because I don't want to have a canned drink that's going to sit next to Bang, because Jack is a maniac and it'd be tough. You know, he's got all this money and Monster has even more. Why would I want to be in between these 2 monsters? So I have to figure out, how do I get into that market, but without being the same as everybody else? And so we have a few different things like that we're working on now. We have a RTD, a protein, Emory Light RTD that we're working on. So those are big new product expansions that could really, you know, ramp things up significantly. It's like a Cytosport who does like muscle milk. They're doing, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars just in their RTD drink. So that's kind of like, I'm hoping to break into that and break into the energy market. But there's a lot of other stuff going on. So, you know, I want to be the biggest. So that's the goal. That's the goal. Yeah.
So one last thing I want to ask you is, what do you want to be remembered by? Whether it's you as Aaron or Redcon, what is your legacy? What legacy do you want to leave behind?
You know, I think about that more and more because of the 3 little kids. You know, I think that's my legacy is those guys. You know, how I raised them. You know, I want them to be, you know, better than me. So better than me in any way that, you know, that you can be. So I am trying to teach them the right lessons very early on. I grew up with a great mom and dad, but I don't think anybody then really taught their kid what it means to be self-sufficient, to be self-confident, to have grit, to be, you know, to not quit. You know, all these things at a young age, it just wasn't told to kids. Nobody told me that, anything like that. I never was explained what it means to work hard and never quit. My parents just didn't do that. And not that they were bad, just nobody did that. So I'm trying to take all the lessons that I've learned in my life and distill them down to make them understandable for a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and as they grow up, continue to push them to be better than me. And so that's where I focus my legacy. You know, I think building great companies like REDCON1 and stuff are awesome and everything, but for me, that's the really, really important thing is those little guys and any future little guys or girls. So
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that, and it will pay off.
Yeah.
Well, Aaron, thank you so much for
Very
being
welcome.
on, and this is
Very
Aaron
welcome.
Singerman with Annie Cooper.
Thank you, Annie. That's cool.
No problem.
Great. Good.